Shalom. Kol Holo Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai Bahashim Rahaha Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. My name is Barad Debal, coming to you from the GMS campus, Indianapolis. And to all those listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. Especially to you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians that make up the 12 tribes of Israel. I just came across this video. I'm going to play it. And it just brought up, the scriptures of that Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has mentioned, and showing that the word of the Lord is true, and that the pages are completely active, as we speak. And so the title of it is A Divided House, and I'm just going to press play and have a few commentaries, and maybe a couple scriptures, but I got one particular one, and you'll understand for those who are in the know. Here we go. This is fair use, just using this as just an understanding to bring forth further understanding of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai's word to those who are seeking. This is a government shutdown fight, all right? And it says Senator press Republicans to reopen Congress and negotiate, excuse me. So it just shows you it's a fight, all right? So I'm going to hit play, get a few scriptures, and we'll go from there.
Guys, we got to get the government open and turn the lights on so we can get everybody back
here. Get your people in and stop covering up for the pedophiles.
There's not. That's ridiculous.
Nobody's covering up for pedophiles.
You know, she knows. You know that she is the.
Okay, I'm going to get back to work. These gentlemen had a publicity stunt here. You see the issue. They need to go and vote to reopen the government.
Get your
plain and simple.
One of
the House has done its work. Every single Republican in the House but one voted to keep the government open, to make sure TSA agents, Border Patrol agents,
and even if they do anything, they're not here next week, even if we strike a deal.
And the Democrats have voted repeatedly to keep the government closed, plain and simple. That is the issue. First things first, open the government. We'll get back to work. Thanks for visiting.
Can I ask you one more thing?
And like he said, the House has done his job, but this House, as you can see, is divided. And so let's just go straight to the scriptures. Let the scriptures speak. This is the book of Mark, chapter 3, verse 25. And we're just going to read a few different versions. This is King James, KJV, King James Bible. It says, and if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And again, this is the House Speaker. He's right in between men, and you seen what was being said and type of things that they were saying, who they were protecting and things of that nature. And now this is put out for all the world to see. And so you're going to see, as the rulers are, so are the people. All right. And that's another scripture. But let's read some other versions. NIV says, if a house be divided against itself, the house cannot stand. NLT says, similarly, a family splintered by feuding will fall apart. So does that not look like a feud? A war with words. And I'm sure that if they're speaking like that in the outwardly amongst people, how much worse when they're just amongst themselves. And so, and like the House Speaker mentioned, it said they came, and you seen it, like a publicity stunt, right? It says English Standard Version, and if a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. So as you can see, many of the versions are saying, a house divided. Let's get this one. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 26, and we're going to read up a couple verses, verse 24. It says, but when the Pharisees heard it, they said, this fellow, talking about Yahushai, doeth doth not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, he says, the prince of the devil. So you see, they're calling him Yahushua a devil. And that's the thing that which, is looked at as far as the prophets and things like that, right? People come against the men of the Lord. But the point is in the next couple verses. It says, verse 25, and Yahushua, which is his true name, says, knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. So when you going back to the time Solomon, when there was 40 years of peace and prosperity under Solomon, there was a moment which Solomon fell weak and he built idols for his concubines and as a result, the house was divided. In the process of that division, you actually had a division between older elders trying to speak to the younger king. I know it was like pretty much you look up in the history of Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and of course the northern kingdom was ready to stay, but because of that division, they fell apart, and from that falling apart, the northern kingdom went into Assyrian captivity, and of course Judah, Levi, and Benjamin stayed, and we haven't been together ever since. But eventually he's bringing us back. But this is just to show, give an example, is that Solomon's kingdom was once, was together, and we were hit by division, and as a result, you see even today being under the curse, it talks about division, his eyes being evil toward his brother, eye evil toward his wife eyes evil toward her husband and the children and things of that nature. And because that is been a great division, when you hear in these days and time, why they always say, why it seems like every time blacks, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, or so-called blacks get together, or Hispanics, they all get together to party. But you hear it a lot amongst the so-called African American. When they get together, there's always fighting. There's always shooting or something, right? It's because we're under this curse that keeps us divided. The thing that's going to bring us together fully is when Yahushua returns. You have different mindsets, those that believe, those that don't believe. And so this is just one of the things. However, the Lord said that he would place these curses upon thy enemies. And we're seeing, as we see speaking currently and presently, that this house, Esau, Edom, their nation is divided from the very top to the elites all the way down to the bottom. You have the women speaking against now their men. You have the men. I came across a video who, he was upset about how his woman was putting him on child support. Certain things that we weren't seeing in times past, like so-called white men getting up and complaining about the workforce and just different things like they're doing now. They usually will be the ones kept a lot quieter, and you would see the women maybe speaking, but now you got the women speaking about all kind of their escapades and just different things that are happening. So we're seeing a weakening, a great divide amongst the nation. Let me finish this. Verse 25, and Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city and house divided against itself shall not stand. All right. So you got right now you have Trump, talking to go to Chicago, to Portland, Tennessee. Chicago's been talking in many of these states. They say, oh, it's the red, the blue. But many of these states and these mayors or the governors or those running of the city, you sometimes get them mixed up. But the runners of these cities and these states are really like fighting back, having the judges of those districts and things like that even coming against what he's saying, and he's overriding. It's just a lot of things that's like got them divided. So you have states fighting back. You got troops, within the city. And he's even talking about using the military troops to go in these cities as practice, on the very citizens. That's a house divided. It says every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city and house divided against itself shall not stand. And this is a great kingdom. And you see from the very high level all the way down, people aren't really believing in, and they're starting to have second thoughts in who they voted for. It says, and if Satan, 26, if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? And we know that, the workers of Satan are the so-called white man, the elites, especially those that are in the know. Okay. And so they are the workers of iniquity and do the bidding for the spiritual demon Satan. So just wanted to show that. And it says, let's read further. And if by Beelzebub cast out devils, by whom did your children cast them out? Therefore they shall be your judges. So we'll stop there. So let's look up. I just did a chat GPT. It says a house divided. What happens? It says a house divided comes from a famous quote. This is by Abraham Lincoln, but we know where he got it from. And the house divided against itself cannot stand. He says this is originally a biblical reference. Okay, we read Mark 3. And we went through some different versions. Okay, and then we go, okay, excuse me. Because I felt that we did so, but I actually had started this video once before, and Salakia. Okay, let me get this in Mark. Okay, so this is KJV. If a house, Mark 3:25, if a house be divided against itself, the house cannot stand. All right, so then we got in NIV, a house is divided against itself, the house cannot stand. NLT, similarly, a family splintered by feuding will fall apart. And so going through that again, I just at least wanted to get a couple of those scriptures, and I thought that I did. Mine just kind of went a little bit Salakia for that. But here we go. So I went to the chat GPT. It says that Mark 3:25. It says, but Lincoln used it in a political speech in 1858 to highlight the dangers of a nation split over slavery. Okay, so it says, meaning the house divided refers to a group, organization, or nation that is deeply split or in conflict within itself. When people in a group are working against each other, the structure, the house, and who we're talking about, the House of Representatives, right, becomes unstable. It says it happens when a house divided to a house divided. Excuse me. What happens to a house divided? It becomes weak. Eternal conflict drains energy and focus. It stops progress. The group can't move forward when divided. It risks collapse. Prolonged division can lead to failure, breakdown, and even civil war in the context of nations. So here's the thing, even with this we know that Trump has also mentioned that in this time in which has been shut down, he's been talking about laying off people and not everybody getting paid. Now you got 750,000 people, that are furloughed, that are waiting to be paid. Now just think if he then goes against what was written prior and not pay people or decide that he's going to just lay people off, that could very well cause a nation to even, in pockets within the nations, to even erupt, because that 750,000 is not just those individuals. They have families, many of them, young, old, elderly, that have certain benefits that need this money. And so it could very well spark something, within this country. It says it risks collapse. So we read that. It invites outside threats because these other nations, what we just showed is on the internet. And of course, they show it all throughout news media. So these other nations are seeing the weakening and the divide within the country. A divided group is easier to exploit and defeat. And you know that we're working up. I say we're, but the Third World War is brewing up. Right? Examples in families, constant conflict could lead to estrangement or breakup. In companies, division in leadership or staff can ruin productivity and morale. And then, of course, America is looked at as a corporation. In countries, political and cultural divisions, which that's going on here too, can lead to unrest, instability, and even civil war. So this could very well spark some things, and like Yahweh Shai, we'll end with this one thing that Yahweh Shai said. This is the book of Luke chapter 12, verse 49. It says, I am come to send fire on earth. And what will it be? What will I if it be already kindled? So when he comes, there's going to already be conflict going on. It's going to be tensions and wars and fightings. So when he returns, he's coming to go ahead and just put it all out, So there it is. So we shall see what comes of it. And like the great men of GMS, starting our head apostles and elders of Great Millstone, have mentioned that it's only going to get worse. And so we're just watching and we're reporting as the Lord has commanded us to. So we hope that this lesson, or I hope that this lesson was edifying, uplifting, exhorting of some sort to the true believers of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Before I end, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahahakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. Until next time, all those listening and learning to you, I say Shalom.